They say that 1 in 3 people believe they've seen a ghost. A shiver down the spine, an eerie sound from an empty room, things that, for most, happen only once in a lifetime. But what if those encounters weren't rare? What if they were part of your everyday life, woven into the walls of your home? I grew up in a house that seemed normal enough at first glance. A 2-story colonial, sitting on a quiet, tree-lined street. But if you knew what to look for, the warped floorboards, the drafty hallways, the peculiar chill that settled in certain rooms, you'd know it was far from ordinary. The first signs. My parents would say it was just an old house. My siblings, skeptical and often dismissive, rolled their eyes at my talk of footsteps in the night. But as a child, I was sensitive to the subtle movements around me, to the moments when I knew something was off. It started small, a flickering light in my room at night, a doll falling from the shelf without explanation. My parents always told me it was the wind or old wiring, but somehow I knew that wasn't true. One of the earliest memories I have is lying in bed one night, nearly asleep, when I heard a distinct creaking sound. Heavy footsteps, deliberate, each step followed by the faint sound of floorboards straining. I thought it was my mom or dad checking in on me. I waited for the door to open, for a voice to soothe me to sleep. But it didn't come. The steps just stopped outside my door. Frozen in fear, I listened for what felt like forever, until I finally heard them retreat down the hallway and out of earshot. The next morning I mentioned it at breakfast. My family just brushed it off, chuckling about the quirks of an old house. But I knew better. The footsteps came back night after night, each time stopping just outside my door before retreating. The house's history. It wasn't until I was older that I uncovered the truth about the house. One rainy afternoon, I stumbled upon an old book in the library that detailed the history of our neighborhood. As I read through the pages, one passage caught my eye. Our house was built on the ruins of another, a smaller home that had burned to the ground nearly a century before. A family had lived there, a mother, father, and their young daughter. They had all perished in the fire. Suddenly, so many things made sense. The footsteps in the hallway, the shadows in the corners, the whispers that I thought were the wind. I realized these weren't just figments of my imagination. They were pieces of the past, echoes of a tragedy that never quite left. Encounters in the dark? As the years went on, the encounters grew bolder. I'd see shadows shifting out of the corner of my eye, hear soft humming from empty rooms. I was too terrified to look, to really face whatever was there. But curiosity tugged at me. I began to wander the house at night, sneaking up to the attic, an eerie place that none of us liked to enter. Dust covered everything, and the air was thick, making it hard to breathe. Sometimes I'd stand there, holding my breath, waiting to feel something. A presence, a touch, anything to confirm I wasn't alone. The attic held a strange collection of items, ones that didn't seem to belong to my family. An old doll with a cracked face, a thin, woven blanket that looked handmade, a stack of letters with faded writing. Each item felt like it had a story, a memory attached. I could almost feel the sadness in the air, thick like the dust that settled around me. The night I saw her, one night, as I lay in bed, something happened that I'll never forget. I'd finally started drifting off to sleep when I felt a weight settle at the edge of my mattress, as though someone was sitting there, just watching. I lay still, holding my breath, thinking it was my mom, until I opened my eyes. She was sitting there, a woman, pale and silent, her face shrouded in shadow. Her eyes were hollow, her skin almost translucent, as if she were part of the air itself. I was frozen with fear. She didn't move. She only watched me, her eyes empty and haunting. I shut my eyes tight, willing her to disappear, too afraid to scream or move. When I finally opened them again, she was gone. But the bed still felt cold, as though her presence lingered even after she left. After that night, I refused to sleep without the covers pulled tight over my head. I tried telling my parents, my siblings, even friends, but no one believed me. I was just a kid, they said, with an overactive imagination. And I almost convinced myself they were right almost. Reflections. The strange occurrences continued throughout my childhood, each one leaving me more uncertain about what was real and what wasn't. As I grew older, I started to accept it as part of my life, a dark secret that the house and I shared. It wasn't something I'd talk about, not even now, as an adult, unless someone asked. But to this day, I wonder if she was really there, if the footsteps, the whispers, and the shadows were signs of something beyond my understanding. Maybe it was my mind filling in gaps. Maybe it was fear taking shape in a tangible way. Or maybe I really did grow up with ghosts. I'd love to know, have you ever felt a presence in your own home? Something you can't explain? Share your stories below, and if you're curious to hear more, stick around for the next story, where I dive even deeper into the mysteries of the unknown.